Hello, my friends. I want to share something personal that happened to me last week that left me with a big shoulder injury. And thank God it was just a shoulder injury because it could have been way worse. What I really want to talk to you about in this video is the death of this archetype, this egoic archetype in us that I'm going to call the controller. You might call the manager, the anxious one, the one that might say, I will take control of my life. Now, it's very noble to say, I'm going to take control of my life. It's what a lot of the personal growth and self-help industry books teachers taught us many years ago. And maybe you just start on this path and you start to read books with titles like Take Control of Your Life. At the same time, this taking control of your life paradigm is dying. Let me explain this because this might be very challenging, depending where you are in your life, might be very challenging, especially if you are in a place of struggles, struggling financially, struggling to get a job, struggling with some health issues, struggling with your children, struggling with whatever. If you are in a state of struggling, you're also in a state of survival, because struggling, it's being in a state of fear, being in a state of stress. So if you're struggling, you also, that part of your brain is in a place of survival. A part of your brain is in a state of survival. And being in survival is not a creative space. So I'm going to assume if you're watching this video, you are safe right now. You have shelter, you have food, you're not in danger, meaning a dangerous relationship or dangerous situation. So with that said, I can presuppose that all your sense of chronic stress, your sense of survival, it's coming from your perception. Your brain is following your thoughts, your mindset. So you have what we call perceived threat, but you're not really under a threat. That's very important to separate, because again, if you're under a threat, most likely you wouldn't be watching this video. So I'm speaking to you who might be perceiving certain things in your life as dangerous, as a threat. And sometimes it can become dangerous, no doubt about it. There is a big shift of consciousness happening right now. I've been working very close, very intimately with this controller in me. The one that says, you don't have enough money, you gotta take control of this and do something about it. I appreciate that voice, but again, this controller in all of us is driven by the ego, is driven by fear, is driven by the aspect of our brain that senses everything as a threat, meaning it's not real. And our brains don't know the difference between what is real and what is perceived. So most of our stress in this modern life comes from perceived stress. You watching this event happen in your life, you even feeling a lot of these emotions of stress in your body, and you aligning your thoughts, your mindset with whatever is happening. So if you stay in that state of chronic stress, which is a state of survival, you are limiting everything that you see, everything that you think, because a brain survival is a brain that shrinks to a single focus that says, how do I save my life right now? That is the goal of the ego. That is the goal of that aspect of our brain that wants to keep you alive. And I'm grateful to that part of our brains. The only problem when you have that part of your brain ignited, activated all the time, you are not in a place that you can connect with your intuition. You cannot connect with the field of love we call God, source energy, universe. You're not able to tap into the vast field of information that is not familiar, because when you're in survival, you are also trapped in your ego. The ego is very limited because the ego is a record of the past. So you try to maybe resolve your current challenges, but with a very limited mind that operates in the past. And in the past, this strategy of control worked for us. We took control, we took actions, we hustled, we worked very hard, and we were able to get out of trouble sometimes and able to even achieve goals. The thing now, that paradigm is shifting. We are moving from pushing and forcing and controlling to trusting, allowing, surrendering, so we can be in a state of flow. So we're going from forcing to flowing. So let me pause this for a second. Think of an aspect in your life. If you think of areas of your life, relationships, health, finances, fitness, relationships in general, or romantic relationship, think of all these areas like a river. They're all rivers. Which one would you say the river is flowing really well? Where is the river flowing very well? Maybe your fitness and health are going really well. So you can say the river is flowing the right direction. You might say your relationship is flowing really well. Great, your romantic relationship is flowing well. But then you might say my finances are not flowing at all. My career is not flowing at all. Okay, pause there. Using a metaphor of the river, you are possibly paddling sideways, swimming sideways, or even swimming up the stream. And it gets exhausting. And we do that because we're coming from that tough mindset that says you gotta take control and you gotta try harder. You gotta be persistent. You gotta be determined. And a lot of personal growth gurus still teach this, that you have to push and force. Well, this paradigm is dying. I'm not saying we're gonna walk away from responsibilities or not show up and do the work. Quite the opposite. We're gonna show up to our responsibilities. We're gonna show up and do the work that is necessary. We're going to really honor this human experience with this modern life. I'm talking about the energy that is driving everything. If the energy that is driving your thoughts, your actions, is the energy of this fear, this controller, you might be experiencing this. Things are not working no matter how hard you try. To me, there's nothing more frustrating and even depressing at times than trying things very hard for months, for even years, and not having results. I have been there, my friends. That's why I can speak. I have cried many times in this floor in my living room because I worked so hard, because I followed the books. I had determination, drive, perseverance, grit, all these qualities that make us mentally tough. I have them all. And right now, because we are having a huge shift of consciousness, those qualities play a role, but they don't work anymore if what is driving them is fear. It's fear, and fear will not let things flow in our lives. With fear, the river is not gonna flow downstream. Think about if you just sit in a boat and it's pointing downstream, you don't need to make any effort because the river is moving you. You still might need to paddle here a little bit, here and there, might to have, steer your boat so you don't hit the rocks. Or sometimes you're gonna cruise because the water is very low. And sometimes you're gonna go really fast and brace yourself. Sometimes you gotta go get food. So again, you're still going to do the work. You're still gonna show up for the responsibilities and meet your essential needs. But you're not in control, you're not directing, the water is taking you, versus when you're paddling up the stream, it's exhausting to the point that makes you wanna give up. I've been there many, many times. So the controller in me is dying. I had an event last week that I went into a place of fear. And I'm gonna share this because something similar, hopefully not an accident, might be happening in your life. I went into fear and I went into control. In that place, I need to take control of this. And it was all driven by fear. I was walking from my closet to my bedroom and my dog was laying on the floor. And I never tripped on my dog before. I never took a fall in my condominium before. All of a sudden, I tripped on her and my entire body fell. And what was in front of me is a platform bed with a wood frame. And I measure. The way I fell, I should have hit my head straight into this hard wood on the floor, which could mean, I'm not making any drama. I checked the scene. I could have had a brain injury. I could have had a very bad neck injury, or even break my neck, or who knows what else could have happened. Bad things could have happened. Instead, I will show you. The time of my fall, my arm went up. And this bruise that you see, my elbow hit the wood and it saved me from hitting my head in the wood. With that, I got a pretty inflamed shoulder that I trust is going to recover. When that happened, afterwards, because I was in agonizing pain, I sat with that event, because for me, a fall like that is never just a fall. My state of mind at that moment that I fell was fear and control. Now, I'm not here to say that, any accident in your life is coming from that place. I don't know. That's for you to reflect yourself. I know for me, that experience was to show me that I was out of alignment, and I have been in my own transformational journey. I've been working really hard, I would say at times, to release this controller, because I know what's going on in the collective consciousness. So I am releasing this control, which is not a one-time thing, because this program of control, which is based on the ego and fear, has been imprinted in all of us for thousands of years. It's not just coming from your childhood. It's not just coming from the imprints of your ancestors, of your mom and dad. The fear program is being in us for thousands of years. So a lot of us in this path are releasing, because we know it doesn't work anymore. We know where we're moving. We're going higher in this path of ascension. We're going from fear to flow, from control to trusting and surrender. We are breaking the structures of the ego so we can live more in our heart center, fully aligned with source or God's energy. Christ consciousness is a big movement right now. So I'm sharing this story because I want to invite you to reflect where in your life there is no flow, where no matter what you do, no matter how much therapy, no matter how much you meditate, no matter how much you pray, no matter how many seminars you go to or coaching sessions you have with your therapist or life coach, things are not changing. I invite you to look at that area in your life and ask yourself, how am I trying to control this situation myself? And the invitation here is for you to release the control and start tapping into the intelligence of your heart, into the intelligence of the field of God, and open your body, your field to intuition, to a higher intelligence that is not limited in your past, is not memories, is not insides of your ego, because again, that's very, very limited. You gotta ask the controller to step out so you can open your consciousness to tap into the high intelligence of creation. You can be in a state of creation. Dr. Joe Dispenza would say, you're either in a state of survival or you're in a state of creation. So to go into a state of creation, you gotta give up the controller in you. Now, I know that's a very hard request because a lot of people are scared If you let go of the controller, you're not gonna pay your bills anymore, you're not gonna have desire to work anymore, or you're gonna be missing important things in life. Another fear that people have, if they let go of the controller or the manager, that they're gonna be lazy. It's quite the opposite. If you let this archetype, this structure of the controller go, you're gonna start operating from the heart. You're gonna start operating from love, capital L, love, instead of fear. The life force, the energy, the vitality that comes from love. I don't know if you have experienced. Have you been in love before? Have you fallen in love? Where all of a sudden you can stay awake all night and not feel tired at all next day? Have you been so in love that you do things for your beloved and it doesn't take your energy at all? Because you still have plenty of energy. That's what happens when you are in love. When you fall in love with life, when you fall in love with all our brothers and sisters in this planet, when you fall in love with your work, you have a tremendous amount of life force to do things, but you're gonna be driven from love. You're not gonna be driven from fear anymore. You're not gonna take control. Now, when I'm in a state of fear that I can feel my controller want to take over, I stop everything and I go meditate to clean that up, to get the controller out of the way. And it's getting easier and easier and easier. And last week I got hijacked. I can absorb sometimes the energies of the collective, and I got hijacked by fear. My brain went into total fear. I went into control, and I fell really hard, which forced me to slow down completely. And I had a lot of great downloads and insights from just being laying still, taking care of this injury. That right now, funny enough, I'm talking to you and there's no pain at all. There's a lot of energy that was unblocked with that injury. So again, I'm not saying you need a shoulder injury. I'm not saying you need an accident. But what I'm going to say is, again, what is happening in your life right now, where things feel really, really, really hard, to the point that you want to give up, to the point that you're so exhausted that you feel depressed. I experienced on and off depression for this last couple years because this controller in me was so strong. This controller was even trying to control my healing journey. This controller was trying to control my transformation, my meditations. That's how sneaky the ego gets. So be very aware. That's why I talk about the traps in the spiritual journey, because the ego is like what is the animal? A chameleon. The ego is a shapeshifter. If all of a sudden you fall in love with your spiritual path and you start doing all the practices, the ego would shapeshift and have a voice in your head that is going to sound like a spiritual teacher talking to you. And it's going to even tell you to take certain actions that you're going to think is your intuition, is your soul guiding you. And it turns out that is the ego. And that discernment, who is speaking, is the voice of my heart, is God's voice, Christ consciousness, or it's fear and ego or darkness speaking. And that, my friends, take a lot of practice. I work on this discernment every day and I fall short at times. Like literally, I fell last week because my mind got hijacked. So this path is not linear. That's why I'm creating a long video here. This path is not linear. Sometimes the deeper you go in the path, the veils that we have to pierce get a little thicker as well. It's almost like a video game. Remember back in the days, or you might play video game now, but back in the days when I played Atari, the little joystick in the Atari, the games had phases, right? A game, to finish a game, let's say there are like 20 phases of the game. And if you recall, the first phase are pretty easy. The challenges are super easy. But as you start going, you pass phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. The game gets harder. The monsters get stronger. There's more attack coming but you also get more practice as you play. So as you get better, you advance in the game. And I'm not saying in this path of ascension, things get harder, although it will at the same time. It only gets harder if you get cocky. If you start operating from the ego again and saying, oh, I do all this spiritual work, I'm so strong, these things are not going to happen to me, I'm love and light, then things might get really, really hard. And with that said, you can still be doing everything right, quote unquote, and still have a big challenge. I've been working with this controller in me for over a year now. And again, I think it's hard because it's a very dense energy. It's a very dense energy rooted in fear, in shame, in guilt, and those energies are very dense. So it takes, several layers. It's like several waves, you do one wave, second wave. So you might feel like you're dealing with the same thing over and over, but I promise you're not dealing with the same thing over and over. If you think of the ocean, let's suppose to get to the smooth waters, you have to go over maybe 50 waves, 100 waves, 500 waves, but it's never the same wave. Each time is a new wave. And it might look and feel the same, but it's not the same. You're advancing. As long as you keep showing up to work, feeling your emotions that come, allowing yourself to feel and release the emotions if you're on this path, then calling the light, calling the love, having that love flooding your body so you can really open your state of consciousness and be in the heart center. You keep doing this work. It's a repetition over and over and over. And when you make the decision that you want to let this controller go, it will go, but it will take jumping several ways because again, the controller carries very heavy energy, density. So again, it might feel like you're doing the work over and over, but you are not. You are advancing. And sometimes you might be hit really hard in life by losing all your money or by having a shoulder injury, by falling off your bike, by having a little fender bender in your car. Again, I hope nothing bad. So I want you to ask yourself, if anything is very hard in your life right now, where are you trying to control? And are you willing to release this controller out of you and start trusting life, surrendering, letting things flow, even when things look very hard? Are you willing to accept and even do something very hard? Are you willing to love it all? Are you willing to find appreciation for everything that is happening right now, even to the hard thing that is happening in your life right now? Appreciating the challenge that you are facing, because life is happening for us. Everything is happening for the evolution of our souls. Are you willing to trust? And I promise things get easier when you get this controller out of the way and you can start receiving downloads, which are just wisdom. Might be wisdom from your ancestors that are imprinted in you. Might be wisdom from a teacher, might be wisdom from spirit. Are you willing to receive and to start trusting? That is the path that we're walking right now. And I'm recording this video to say you're not alone in this path. The spiritual path is not this light and rainbows and unicorns. It's hard at times. And yet it's a meaningful path. We're not in the spiritual path to be always happy. We are on the spiritual path to live a meaningful life and start purifying, taking these controllers, these managers, these ego-driven archetypes away so we can purify the ego, so the ego becomes our server. The ego becomes the server of the heart. The ego will bow to love. The ego will bow to the heart and act following the heart. The ego is a terrible master. We cannot take actions based on fear anymore. It's not working. So I guarantee if there's an area in your life that no matter what you do, it's not working, it's because you operating from the controller. I have tried to take charge of my finances, and it has been a disaster. I struggle a lot, and I realize, oh my God, I'm coming from that place of like, I need to take control, and I'm trusting, and I know things will work out greatly. They are already, but it needs to be a shift of consciousness first. You need to shift the energy inside you, because you won't matter how much you pray, how much you meditate, and how much you even ask God to help you. If you're not shifting your energy inside you and you giving up, you need to be willing to give up the fear, to give up the controller, so you have more room to embrace the light that's coming in. There's so much light coming towards us right now. You receive the light and you're going to start seeing things change in your life. But the changes are going to be internal first. When you start living in a state of tremendous gratitude and you let go of the blaming, you let go of the judgments, you let go of the guilt. It's tough, it's hard work, but it's worth work, because everything starts to make sense in your life and you live a meaningful life and you start living in a state of deep joy. Joy is not a temporary emotion. You can live in joy even when things are hard externally, because joy is a state of the heart, is a state of the soul, the spirit. It's a state that you come back to. It's like coming home to your safe spot of freedom, of joy, freedom of choice. Choice is a big word right now. You can't just go directly to this place of bliss, freedom, joy. First, are you willing to choose love instead of fear? Are you willing to choose letting go your judgments, blaming others, or countering? It's so polarized right now. Are you willing to let go of the controller in you, the controller that gets fed by blaming, by judging, by believing that there's something you can do? Yes, there's something you can do. Do your inner work. Release all the fear that is trapped in your body, in your bones, in your tissues, in the pathways of your brain. Release fear and become a being of light. Become a lighthouse. I even have a lighthouse right there. Look at that. Become a lighthouse. Become a lighthouse and stop waiting for external things to change for you. You changing here first. That is truly taking responsibility for your life here, honoring your human experience, because you are spirit. And to connect with your spirit, you can't be in your ego, because the ego is not aware of spirit and spirit is not aware of ego, as the Course in Miracles states. So to be more connect with the truth of who you are, capital T, truth, is spiritual being. Everything else is perception. Perception is not truth. Perception leads to interpretation. Interpretation is not truth. So my invitation, my friends, let's go down the stream. Let the river take you. Stop paddling upstream. Let go the oars. And let the boat of love, let the boat of God, Christ consciousness, take you down the stream. Let me know under the comments how this video resonated with you. And tell me where your controller is trying to take over your life. Where things are hard and it's time to let go of the control, because we are shifting. Excuse me. We are shifting and things are very exciting right now. Let me know under the comments what's going on for you. Much love. Talk soon.